Welcome to the adventures of the monad. Today, we will examine several miscellaneous phenomena related to the emotional world. It has been predicted that some applications of one or two superphysical forces may soon become known to the world. In the late 19th and early 20th century, a common experience at the spiritual seance was for mediums to demonstrate the existence of an unseen force that could instantaneously move enormous weights, for example. There are several ways in which such results may be brought about. Hints are given as to four of these. 1. There are great etheric currents on the Earth's surface, flowing from pole to pole, in volumes which make this power as irresistible as that of the rising tide. And there are methods by which this stupendous force may be safely utilized. Unskilled attempts to control it would be fraught with the greatest danger. 2. There is an etheric pressure corresponding to, though immensely greater than, the atmospheric pressure. Practical occultism teaches how a given body of ether can be isolated from the rest so that the tremendous force of etheric pressure can be brought into play. 3. There is a vast store of potential energy which has become dormant in matter during the involution of finer particles into denser particles. By changing the condition of the matter, some of this energy may be liberated and utilized in the same manner that latent energy in the form of heat may be liberated by a change in the condition of visible matter. This is also what happens when uranium is split. We certainly know vast amounts of energy are released in this case. 4. Many results may be produced by what is known as sympathetic vibration. An immense number of sympathetic vibrations can be created by sounding the keynote of a class of matter you wish to affect. No additional energy is developed when this is done on the physical plane, for example, by sounding a note on a harp and inducing other harps tuned in unison to respond sympathetically. But on the emotional plane, the matter is far less inert, so when called into action by sympathetic vibrations, it adds its living force to the original impulse, which is multiplied. By further rhythmic repetition of the original impulse, the vibration may be intensified to the point that the result is out of all apparent proportion to the cause. There seems almost no limit to the conceivable achievements of this force in the hands of a great adept who fully comprehends its possibilities. The building of the universe itself resulted from the vibration set up by the spoken word. The class of mantra or spells that produces their results not by controlling some elemental, but by repeating certain sounds, also depend on the effectiveness and the actions of sympathetic vibration. Joshua supposedly brings down the walls of Jericho by blowing his trumpet. A fine story, but just a story. The phenomenon of disintegration may also be brought about by the action of extremely rapid vibrations, which overcome the cohesion of the molecules of the object operated upon. A still higher vibration of a slightly different type will separate these molecules into their constituent atoms. A body thus reduced to its etheric condition can rapidly move from one place to another. The moment the force exerted is withdrawn, it will be forced by the etheric pressure to resume its original condition. This is clearly how the transponder works in Star Trek. It is necessary to explain how the shape of an object is preserved when it is disintegrated and then rematerialized. If a key, for example, is melted in a furnace, when the heat is withdrawn, the metal will solidify, but instead of being a key, it will be merely a lump of metal. This is because the elemental tertiary essence, a level of primitive nature spirit, which informs the shape of the key, would be dissipated by the alteration of its condition. The elemental essence can be affected by heat. Still, when this temporary body is destroyed as a solid, the elemental essence pours back into the great reservoir of the essence. Much as the higher principles of a human, though entirely unaffected by heat or cold, are yet forced out of a physical body when the body is destroyed by fire. Consequently, when the metal of the key cooled into the solid condition again, the earth elemental essence which poured back into it would not be the same as that which it contained before, and there would therefore be no reason why the key shape should be retained. A person who disintegrated a key to move it from one place to another would be careful to hold the elemental essence in precisely the same shape until the transfer was completed. Then, when their will was removed, it would act as a mold into which the solidifying particles would flow, or rather around which they would be reaggregated. Thus the shape would be accurately preserved unless the operator's power of concentration failed. Apports, or the bringing of objects almost instantaneously from great distances to spiritualistic seances, are sometimes produced in this way. It was known that when disintegrated, matter could be passed seamlessly through any solid substance, such as a wall of a house or the side of a locked box. The passage of matter through matter is thus, when understood, as simple as the passage of water through a sieve or of a gas through a liquid. Materialization, or the change of an object from the etheric to the solid state, can be produced by a reversal of the described process. In this case, a continued effort of will is necessary to prevent the materialized matter from relapsing into the etheric condition. The various kinds of materialization will be described in a presentation on invisible helpers. Electrical disturbances present difficulties in either materialization or disintegration, presumably for the same reason that bright lights render them almost impossible. This is the destructive effect of a strong vibration. Reduplication is produced by forming a perfect mental image of an object to be copied and then gathering the necessary emotional and physical matter about the mold created. The phenomenon requires considerable powers of concentration to be performed. Every particle, interior and exterior, of the object to be duplicated must be held accurately and simultaneously in view. A person unable to extract the matter required directly from the surrounding ether may sometimes borrow it from the material of the original article, which would then be correspondingly reduced in weight. Precipitation of letters may be produced in several ways. An adept might place a sheet of paper before a student, form a mental image of the writing they wish to appear upon it, and draw from the ether the matter needed to objectivize the image. Or the adept could, with equal ease, produce the same result on a sheet of paper lying before the person they were corresponding with, regardless of the distance between them. A third method, quicker and therefore more often adopted, is to impress the whole substance of the letter upon the mind of some pupils and leave them to do the mechanical work of precipitation. The pupil would then imagine they saw the letter written on the paper in their master's hand and objectivize the writing as just described. They might have to draw it mechanically if they found it challenging to draw the material from the ether and simultaneously precipitate the writing on the paper. This may all seem frivolous, but how else does a master train their pupil to use their will to control matter? Levitation, the floating of a human body or an object in the air, is often performed at seances by spirit hands, which support the medium's body. This may also be achieved with the aid of the natural elements of air and water. In the East, another method is employed. There is known to occult science a method of neutralizing or even reversing the force of gravity, which is the result of electrostatic attraction, not some unseen graviton which has never been measured. This means levitation can be easily produced. It was most probably because of this method that the flying ships of ancient India and Atlantis could take off into the air. It is not improbable that a similar technique was employed in constructing the pyramids and Stonehenge. Levitation also happens to some ascetics in India, and some of the greatest of the Christian saints have, in deep meditation, been thus raised from the ground, including Saint Teresa and Saint Joseph of Cupertino, not to be confused with Saint Jobs of Cupertino. Since light consists of etheric vibrations, one who understands how to set up these vibrations can produce spirit lights, either the mildly phosphorescent kind, the dazzling electric variety, or those dancing globules of light into which a specific class of fire elementals so readily transform themselves. Handling fire without injury can be performed by covering the hands with the thinnest layer of etheric substance, so manipulated as to be impervious to heat. There are also other ways in which it may be done. The production of fire is also within the resources of the emotional plane, as well as to counteract its effect. There seems to be at least 3 ways in which this could be done. 1. To set up and maintain the requisite rate of vibration where combustion may ensue. 2. To introduce through fourth dimensionality a tiny fragment of glowing matter, and then blow upon it until it bursts into flame. 3. To introduce chemical constituents which would produce combustion. Don't try this at home. You don't want to burn your house down. By utilizing this form of matter manipulation, metals can be transmuted by reducing a piece of metal to its atomic condition and rearranging the atoms in another form. What have we learned so far? Matter is created by manipulating monads aggregated into various structures on both the emotional and physical plane. What holds this matter together are forces that are inherent in their structure, including prana. If you know how to project your will towards matter, you can overcome the forces that bind it and disassemble and reassemble that matter as you choose. This may seem like parlor tricks, but our destiny is not to be party conjurers. We are here to be co-creators in the execution of the divine plan. Thank you.